up in a small town. Things were hard. We needed to make little jokes. I learned to make my car a little funny. I'm sorry if I sent the wrong message, like I was some sort of representative or something.
So you don't have pornos and calendars?
No.
You need to take that sticker off your car.
Don't you dare, don't you And now I'm sick off of your mud pie.
Pat, we know you're eating a hot dog.
I'm not, sir.
Don't say you were jacking off when you were at Haunted House.
Humans are social creatures, and as such, within us all is an inherent desire to be accepted and liked among our peers. This desire for acceptance and validation can manifest in a lot of ways, including anxiety about doing or saying the wrong thing and becoming ostracized for it. While not everyone has the same level of anxiety when faced with social situations, even the most emotionally and mentally stable of us tend to feel a little anxious when something new presents itself. Things like having lunch with work friends for the first time, or going to a party where there may be a lot of people you don't know, or making small talk in a meeting. And Tim Robinson's Netflix show, I Think You Should Leave, takes all of these little nagging anxious thoughts, brings them to the precipice of sheer insanity, and shoves them over the edge and into the void, creating some of the most hilarious, surreal, and often existential comedy that I've ever seen. In an article from Esquire published in 2021 when the show premiered, writer Abigail Covington says of Robinson and other Midwestern comedians, random outbursts of anger triggered by embarrassment is textbook Midwestern dad behavior. That's why comedians like John Belushi from Chicago.
There are 9 different countries where March comes in like a frog and goes out like a golden retriever. But that's not the weird part. No, the weird part is the frog. The frog part is...
Chris Farley from Wisconsin.
You're gonna be doing a lot of doobie rolling when you're living in a van down by the river.
And now Robinson.
I'm not worried about it! I'm not worried about any of this! I'm done! Do what you want! Pull the plug!
Are so adept at playing that I swear I've met some of the I Think You Should Leave characters in dive bars in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And while I personally wouldn't just limit these personalities to Upper Peninsula dive bars, this analysis is right on the money. Tim Robinson, like myself, is a Michigan native, hailing from the small city of Clarkston, home of the I-75 Jesus. Are you on the right road? While characters that Robinson plays are obviously supposed to be complete and total weirdos, these outbursts of anger coming from seemingly out of nowhere, followed by hackneyed attempts to get the room back on your side, is an all too familiar scenario. And of course, it's familiar because you've met the guy in the business meeting who drags the joke out for way too long, or the guy who is oxymoronically incredibly passionate and confident in their terrible idea, but also incredibly insecure about the idea actually being terrible, or a stranger who finds a weird and arbitrary thing to bond with you over, inescapably linking them to you for the rest of the social event. And worst of all, the guy who keeps hogging the fucking zip line at the pool. You're supposed to take turns, Ronnie. And something within this same vein, and something that Covington also mentions in her article, is how this show also takes a look at the fragility of the male ego. This subject is touched on and somewhat glossed over in favor of the Midwestern humor discussion, but I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. This show does well at taking a peek behind the curtain of masculinity and the anxiety that these sort of men can feel when their worldview is challenged or things don't go their way. And obviously, it isn't only American Midwestern men who suffer from these issues with their egos, but as anyone native to the region can tell you, it's filled with massive swaths of rural areas filled with men who, for generations, have been instilled with traditional and archaic ideals of masculinity. These men also, in my experience, often become anxious or uncomfortable when these ideals are challenged and their egos become bruised. And I Think You Should Leave holds a mirror up to these people who become frustrated and angry at what, at the end of the day, are some of the most banal things imaginable, and says, this is how ridiculous you look. It's not always incredibly obvious either. Sometimes it may not even be the entire message of the sketch. Take for example this sketch, Bloody Eyeball, from season 3, episode 5. In this sketch, a group of office workers are sitting in a collaboration room when all of a sudden a loud rumble startles everyone in the room. This sound was the air conditioning kicking on, but a couple of people crack jokes in the way that one might in this sort of very mildly embarrassing scenario, with one man saying that he thought a truck hit the building and one woman saying she thought a thunderstorm was rolling in. However, when Randall says that he thought a volcano was erupting, the entire room turns on him, berating him for how silly that very idea is. Amanda, the woman sitting next to Randall, offers offers some light encouragement, which ends up coming back to haunt her because you're never supposed to tell Randall he's interesting. And Randall's continued feeling of entitlement for Amanda's attention for the remainder of the sketch could potentially be a statement on how men often mistake the basic politeness of strangers, particularly women, as a sign of genuine interest. And this show isn't just about holding up a mirror to others either. I think one of the most interesting things about this show is that somehow even some of the worst people in a lot of these sketches end up being relatable. Because in showing how absolutely ridiculous some of these people can be in uncomfortable social situations, it also shows you how ridiculous you can be. Because all those people I listed earlier that you'd met that allowed you to relate to these sketches, the haunting thing is that you've also been them. Maybe you've been the guy in the business meeting who dragged the joke out for way too long. Or you've been the guy who is oxymoronically incredibly passionate about a terrible idea and simultaneously incredibly insecure about the idea being terrible. Maybe you've been the stranger who finds a weird and arbitrary thing to bond with somebody else over, inescapably linking them to you for the rest of the social event. And worst of all, you've been the guy at the pool who keeps hogging the fucking zipline. Ronnie, get off the fucking zipline. I'm not gonna tell you again. Now, hopefully you haven't taken any of these situations to the absurd extremes that the characters in these sketches have, but if you have a propensity for overthinking or an anxiety disorder, these sketches can hit extra hard not only because of the embarrassing cringe humor, but also because this is how disordered thinking can eventually twist innocuous, awkward moments into one of the worst experiences of your life. And there's a sort of comfort in knowing that other people experience these sort of anxious thoughts, as well as the occasional obsessive ideation of the worst case scenario in any given situation. Sketches stemming from social anxiety are the bread and butter of the show, but it also isn't afraid to dip its toes into existentialism every now and then.
I don't even want to be around anymore.
What?
I don't want to be around anymore.
Like you don't want to live anymore?
I don't know.
There are two sketches in particular that come to mind here, and both are from season 3, episode 2. In the first sketch of the episode, titled Supermarket Swap, a father and son are participating in a Price is Right style game show, and one of the challenges is putting on a VR helmet and going on a virtual shopping spree. The dad is the one who puts on the headset, but once he's strapped in, he finds himself paralyzed and unable to breathe. His reality has become completely untethered to any official point of reference and has been shattered by the addition of yet another reality before him. As the crowd, host, and other contestants begin to grow worried and then frantic as this man continues to hold his breath and his face turns red, the host calls some stagehands over to get this man out of the helmet, and they finally pull it off his eyes. And that's when he lets out a long, terrified scream. When the host finally gets a chance to ask this man why he didn't breathe, he says that he couldn't figure out how to move the body. A thought that sends him spiraling. Because how does anyone really move their body? How do we really do anything? Are we nothing more than masses of brain matter and nerves piloting flesh mech suits that have been evolutionarily optimized to give us a more sturdy corporeal form? I mean, yes, but further down the spiral, when it comes to how it all comes together and works, how it came to work in the first place, and how on top of this reality it now exists an entirely other reality, how can we be sure what's real? How can we be sure that anything is real? And just as the spiral reaches that point, our character suddenly turns into a mannequin, which at first seems like a random end to the sketch, but serves to further drive home the question of how do we know what's real? The very next sketch, titled Darmine Doggy Door, also goes to an existential place, but rather than coming in the form of questioning our reality, it laments and despairs in the reality in which we currently exist. A man is doing an ad for a dog door that is able to be locked at all times, unless it detects your dog is entering by sensing a small chip in their collar. The man says that he got this door after an incident where a horrible creature burst into his dog door in the night while he was sitting on the couch because his wife got flipped by a swing dancer like 8 times and it really bothered him. But then he realizes that the creature is actually just a pig in a Richard Nixon mask sent over by his neighbor because he's having a dispute with the property line. He goes on to say that in that moment, when he thought that this creature was real, that this horrible monster beyond comprehension was an unknowable entity that shared this world with us, was also going to eat him alive and end his miserable existence forever, the first thought that came to his mind was, great, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. And then he realizes how absolutely messed up this is.
You're relieved you don't have to go to work because you thought you were gonna get eaten?
What the fuck is this world? What have they done to us?
What did they do to us?
This sketch dares to ask those of us who find morbid relief in potential lack of responsibilities when overwhelmed with dread, what did they do to us? How has society reached the point where our conditions are so bad that the potential of death, even in an intense situation such as this, may occasionally be met with a twinge of relief rather than only fear? The sketch does end on a positive note, with Tim mentioning that that moment was what made him realize that he didn't like his work, and presumably found more meaningful employment in advertising the Darmine Doggy Door. I Think You Should Leave may not be quite for you, and it's not for everyone. And that's okay. But for me, the strange and awkward characters, the masterful balance of absurdist humor, surrealism, existentialism, and occasional moments of genuine heart easily make this one of the best comedy shows of the last decade. And hopefully, if you haven't already, this video has convinced you to give it a chance. If you liked this video, consider subscribing to the channel, leave me a like or a comment letting me know what you liked, or even what you didn't like. Bully me in the comments if you want. It all drives engagement, I guess. As always, guys, my name is Isaiah, and Ronnie, stay off of the fucking